Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to break the 6-game NBA preseason slate on Sunday. Before we get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports sites. Before we get into the video, I want to thank you guys again for the support. It was crazy on the live stream today. We had over 400 concurrent viewers. So if you guys enjoy all this free content, if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't upload videos you don't go live, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you cannot watch the videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below, which is the DK DFS show. And finally, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. If you guys are not familiar with PrizePicks, it's a site we can bet on player props. So if you guys want to sign up, again, it's a little bit different way to play. Right, you're not playing against anyone with DFS. Obviously, you're just playing against the house. So if you want to sign up, it's the code DKDFS, all one word, 100% match up to $100. So you put $100 in, you get $200 to play with. Again, I'll have a link in the description below, but it's the code DKDFS. All right, so with that all out of the way, let's jump into the video. Before we talk about players and their prices for this 6-game slate, I want to look back my lineup here from Saturday's slate. So let's go over my lineup. I had SGA, Terrence Davis, Hamidou Diallo, Boucher, Drummond, Doncic, Bobby Portis, and Karl Anthony Towns. So really, the value plays were there, right? Hamidou Diallo, 28 fancy points. He had a double-double, right? The reason I was on these OKC guys, again, we talked about in the video as well as in the live stream, was they were just really thin. Now, SGA, unfortunate, he only played the first half, but he was crushing. Like, if he gets a shift in the third quarter, he goes for over 30 easily. Again, Diallo had a really good game at a pretty weak small forward position. And then, guys like Boucher, his first stint was so tilting. He had 3 fouls in like 6 minutes. They brought him out. But that second shift, he didn't play a ton, but in that second shift, he literally crushed in like 8-9 minutes. He finished with 25 fancy points, and that was pretty solid. And then Bobby Portis, only 12% owned, almost 35 fancy points. Again, in pretty limited time. 14 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists. And these are the type of guys we want, right? Because when there's question marks for minutes, when we're not exactly sure, we just want to target the really high usage guys. Now, unfortunately for me, I got unlucky with the stars I picked, with Drummond only playing the first half, and he was not even great in the time he played. Same thing with Doncic, right? There were some stars that played in the second half. Alex Sabonis. For me, it was Drummond or Sabonis, and it was really close. The reason I went Drummond was because the players around Sabonis were just a little bit more talented, right? He had a guy like Brogdon, Oladipo. Turner's a pretty good player. Whereas Drummond at Cleveland, they don't have a ton, right? Besides like him and Kevin Love. So that's the reason I gave the edge to Drummond. Again, that was really unfortunate because Sabonis, my boy, who I shouldn't have faded, but he went for like 40 fancy points. Again, he got action in the second half, though Drummond did not. Same thing with Doncic. Doncic versus Giannis was a coin flip. Now, realistically, I probably should have played both. I probably should not have played Drummond, probably spent down somewhere else and then try to jam in Giannis and Doncic. Now, unfortunately, again, Doncic only played the first half. What can you do, right? We looked into it. We really didn't get a ton of minutes projections from these beat writers, so unfortunate there. Giannis, again, he played in the second half and he crushed, so you kind of needed him. And then Towns, for me, what was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, so the spend ups were, again, got a little bit unlucky, but that's the preseason, right? I know there's variance. I know there's times where there's just luck involved, but the value plays, right, feel like they were pretty spot on. Terrence Davis was solid, and SGA was pretty good, and then Diallo, Boucher, Portis all had really good games. So hope you guys had a great night as well. I know a lot of you did really well, but yeah, that's really the look back for me. So let's talk about this slate on Sunday. And we have 5 of the 6 games that we saw on Friday. So we have a good idea, of how things are going to work. Now, sure, some coaches can change things up, but let's talk about Orlando and Atlanta. So we saw this game on Friday, and let's take a look at how the minutes were distributed. So we got news of both teams, actually, that the starters were going to get about 25 minutes. If we look on the Magic side, besides Aaron Gordon, right, we talked about that, but Aaron Gordon played 16 minutes. He crushed in that time, 12, 6, and 3. The rest of the starters, Vucevic, again, we got on him. He had 25 minutes, 18 points, 11 boards, 4 assists. I think he's once again a really solid play. Guys like Fournier, Fultz were okay, and then off the bench, MCW was solid. Cole Anthony was all right as well, and no one else really had a great game. If you look at Atlanta, right, Trae Young was the chalk on Friday. That was unfortunate. He just had a terrible shooting day and turned the ball over a ton. A little bit uncharacteristic of him, but I'm fine going back to well there and Trae Young just because, again, he's a very high usage guy. We know he can get hot and can put up fantasy points, a lot of fantasy points in a short amount of time. Bogdan played 23 minutes. He was solid in that time. Collins and Capella were pretty good limited time in 20 and 22 minutes. Both were pretty solid, right? 8 and 14 for Capella, 14, 9 and 1 for John Collins. So that's kind of where the interest lies. Gallinari was solid off the bench, 14 and 4, but he at times can be a bit scoring dependent. Let's take a look at, we'll get to the Washington-Brooklyn game at the end because that's the one game we have not seen so far. Let's talk about the Pistons and the Knicks. So with the Pistons, starters played a little bit more than I expected. Blake Griffin played 22, Grant 22, Mason Plumlee 21, Killian Hayes 21, and then a couple bench guys like Jahlil Okafor played 20, D Rose played 18. Again, I wasn't expecting a ton from Rose and Blake, but they did play a few more minutes than I expected. And then if we look at the Knicks side, this was good to see for DFS if you play these guys, right? Because the starters came back in the fourth. So they almost ran a regular rotation, right? RJ Barrett, 29 minutes. Julius Randle, 29 minutes. Alfred Payton, 27. Nerlens Noel, 25. Mitchell Robinson off the bench, 22. Obi Toppin off the bench, 20. So the Knicks, if they go back to how the minutes were distributed in that first game, then they look like pretty good targets for Sunday. Now let's talk about Houston and Chicago. So on the Houston side, Cousins and Wall absolutely crushed in very limited time. Boogie, 14, 5, and 2 with I think a few blocks and steals. John Wall had 13, 9, and 5. Right, that's where the offense is coming from. Even Eric Gordon had a pretty solid game, and he shot the ball well. But we know with Eric Gordon, at times the floor is somewhat low if he is not making his shots. And then, a guy off the bench that we talked about in the live stream with them being really thin up front was Bruno Caboclo. He had, I think, close to 40 fantasy points at very low ownership, but the ownership's going to rise on him this slate. I think he's once again viable if the starters do get limited. Chris Clemens, another high usage guy. He had a bad shooting night. I think he shot 1 of 10, but he's someone potential value there. Jaren Grant was okay off the bench. And then for the Bulls, starters played like low 20s minutes, right, with White 23, Levine 23, Markkanen 25, and Otto and Wendell Carter Jr. both with 19. Off the bench, Satoransky played 26. He had a nice day, 11, 7, and 6. I mean, he is a guy that can stuff his stat sheet. And then let's talk about the Clippers and Lakers. So Clippers, this is really ugly on the Clippers side. I think they played 18 players. If I did, I think all 18 players played. So, yeah, that's not good. So I'm probably not looking at the Clippers unless we get news that they're going to run a more regular rotation or they trim down the rotation. As of right now, I have very, very little interest in the Clippers. Lakers, a lot more interest. If they do end up resting their veterans like they did last game, right? They rested about, I think it was 5 guys. And they ran a 9-man rotation, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Caruso got injured. So it was basically an 8-man rotation. Kuzma played 38 minutes. Horton Tucker played 37. Montrez played 31, right? So if the Lakers do end up resting their main guys again, then they look really, really good in the slate. You're probably going to want to get at least a couple into your lineup. And then finally, Sacramento and Portland. Starters got a decent run. Derrick Jones Jr., 28 minutes, 26 for Covington. Right, we talked about Cantor and Giles as 2 of my favorite plays in the slate on Friday. Giles absolutely crushed, almost a 50 bomb at really low ownership. Cantor was solid too. I think he finished like 26, 27. Lillard and CJ played 20 and 22 respectively. Melo even had a pretty good game off the bench. On the Kings side, starters again got decent run, right? Mid-20s minutes for guys like Fox, guys like Holmes, Barnes. Off the bench, it was a little bit more, they kind of give a lot of guys run. But the starters did get good time. I'm not sure, right? Things can change, but just to get a good idea of what we can kind of expect. And then for Washington and Brooklyn, again, we haven't seen these teams. What we know with Washington is, well, a lot of guys out here. Westbrook, Beal, potentially Bryant, Bertans, Ish Smith. So they're going to be pretty thin. Let's just talk about them now. Let's jump into it. So we'll talk about Washington first. A guy like Troy Brown Jr. at 5.8K with all the main guys basically being out, I think he looks solid. He's a guy that will shoot the ball a decent amount. Again, I expect pretty good minutes for him. Rui Hachimura, again, with this roster being pretty depleted, at least for this game, he's someone that is viable. And then even a guy like Shabazz Napier, he's a good point per minute guy. I think you can look to, even a guy like Mo Wagner at the min price 4K, another pretty solid point per minute guy. So there's definitely some value here with Washington, with them, again, resting a lot of guys or a lot of the main guys. So again, Troy Brown Jr., viable. I think Rui's viable. The rookie Denny Avdija, they said probably 20-ish minutes here for the preseason against the Nets. So with them taking him as the number 9 overall pick, again, I think he's a guy that they're going to want to see what they can get. And at 4.9K, I think is definitely viable here on this slate. So there's value here with Washington, right? We got Troy Brown Jr., we got Avdija, we got Hachimura, we got Shabazz. So I think it looks pretty solid there, 4.4K. And then, even a guy like Mo Wagner, I think is viable. On the Brooklyn side of things, well, this is the first game we're going to get to see Kyrie and Kevin Durant together. Now, how many minutes they play is a little bit more, unknown at the moment. KD coming off the major injury. Don't think he'll play a ton, but we'll see. Hopefully we get some sort of clarity in what the minutes will be. Again, what we're aiming for usually is about 25 minutes for the starters. So if we can get close to that with Durant and Kyrie, then they look like two of the top players in the slate. But again, will we get that? I don't know. So this is a kind of a wait and see. Hopefully we get clarity on the minutes for these starters. Other options on Brooklyn, there's no Karis LeVert. Again, the usage is going to be basically Durant, basically Kyrie. Dinwiddie at 5.6 I think is fine. But again, he's been playing alongside a lot higher usage guys. DeAndre Jordan at 4.6 is in play. Again, I expect probably 15 to 20 minutes from him maybe. I think, Jared Allen's at 6.2, Jordan's at 4.6. Allen's a younger guy, so I expect him to probably play a few more minutes, but he's also, $1,500 more. As far as guys on the bench, is there anyone here? I think, possibly a guy like Bruce Brown, maybe Tyler Johnson, if these starters end up getting rested. But that's kind of where my interest lies. So, all right, let's go back to now Orlando and Atlanta. So, again, Vucevic, he played good minutes, 25 that last game. He had a huge game, and the matchup is good, right, either against Capella or John Collins, whoever they have trying to defend him, or Bruno Fernando. So, I do like Vucevic once again here. I'm assuming he gets his 25 minutes. Now, Gordon, and he was the one guy that got limited. We'll see. If there's going to be no limitation on him, then I think he's in play too. But at the moment, it's definitely Vucevic for me over Aaron Gordon. Fournier at 5.5, it's okay. I would probably give the edge to Fultz. I think he has a little bit of a higher floor due to the assist numbers. Fultz, again, he had a decent game that first preseason game. He had, 25 minutes. He had 10 points, 4 assists, 3 boards. So, yeah, Fultz is a perfectly fine play there in the mid-range. Bacon did get kind of hot, but I'm not really looking to him there, 4.8K. Cole Anthony, MCW are viable plays here, 4.7 and 4.6 respectively. Again, MCW is a guy that can fill up a stat sheet. He had 10, 5, and 3 in 25 minutes. Cole Anthony, not as good, 7, 3, and 1, but those guys are definitely potential value plays here for the Magic. So all in all, it's Vucevic at the top for me, basically. I think Fultz looks like a pretty good play there in the mid-range, and then guys like MCW, guys like Cole Anthony for value. Let's talk about Atlanta. So Atlanta, for me, once again, it's Trae Young. I know he had a bad game last game, but he's just, again, such a high usage guy. He shot the ball 2 of 9, had 6 turnovers. I do not expect that again here from Trae Young. So once again, he's in play as one of the top spend ups for me. Collins at 7K is solid, right? He's a guy that, there are some higher usage guys now in this offense, guys like Bogdanovic, the pick and roll, they're going to run with Capella at times. So he won't demand as high of a usage as he did last year. So Collins is one of those plays I'm okay with at 7K, but I'm probably not going to prioritize. Gallinari at 5.5 off the bench, again, can be a little bit scoring dependent at times. I think that's solid, but again, not really prioritizing him either. Capella's at 5.3. Then Melissa's probable. Again, he got about 20 minutes. He's a guy that they're going to run a lot of the pick and roll at Trae Young. I think that's a perfectly fine price for him. And then Bogdanovic, I think, is a little bit too cheap at 4.7, right? We saw let's go to the Hawks. We saw 23 minutes from him, 9, 4, and 2. Yeah, I think he's once again a pretty good value play here. As far as like anyone off the bench, there's not really anyone I'm super interested in, to be honest. Like if we go to the minutes, let's see. Herter played 21 minutes. Reddish played 23. Fernando did play 17 minutes. He is min price. Again, that's definitely viable. But let's talk about New York and Detroit. So again, New York, these starters played the most minutes out of anyone, pushing basically 30. So looking at the price points, Randall at 6'5". If we get close to 30 minutes again, I really, really like him. Again, the offense runs through him. He's a guy that can fill up the stat sheet. He almost had a triple-double. 11, 8, and 6, 2 steals. The matchup itself is good against Detroit, whether it be Plumlee defending him or Blake Griffin or Okafor. So I do like Julius Randle a lot here. Now, I think the ownership will be pretty high. But again, it's just the minutes thing, right? If we get close to what we saw last game, then Randle looks good. I also really like Alfred Payton at 6'1", another guy that will fill up the stat sheet, right? If you look at his box score of that last game, that's what he does, 10, 7, and 6. Like, he is a triple-double threat when given good minutes. So Alfred Payton, Julius Randle, right now, two of my favorite plays. Again, things can change, but at the moment, as I'm making this at 11:30 at night on Saturday, Randle, Alfred Payton look really good to me. Obi Toppin at 5'2", well, he was pretty good in limited time. In 20 minutes, he had 11.7 boards, an assist, and a block. He does possess upside, 5.2K. The price didn't really move a ton in him, so I think he's a pretty good play there in the mid-range. I'm fine with RJ Barrett. I mean, he will shoot the ball a good amount when he's out there. He shot the ball 16 times, 7 to 16 in 29 minutes. 5K seems a little bit underpriced. And then, some cheaper options like Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel, I like a lot too. So right now, there's a lot to like in New York for me. Like Mitchell Robinson, we know he's a high-usage guy. He's a guy who can get you a lot of blocks. I think he had like 2 or 3 blocks in it last game. Noel, got good run, right? He played, where was the next? He played 25 minutes, 10, 8, and 1. So, again, in limited time last year with OKC, he was good. And, in games when Steven Adams was out, Noel was basically a lock and load. So at 4.7K, I like him for value. So really, right now, at the moment, New York is probably my favorite team to target. So guys I like, obviously Randall, Alfred Payton, Obi Toppin, RJ, Mitchell, Noel. There's literally 6 guys I think look pretty good here for the Knicks. On the Pistons side, so minutes weren't amazing. Again, if we go to Detroit, the player that played the most was actually Jeremy Grant and Blake Griffin at 22. Killian Hayes played 21 minutes. So Blake Griffin did play good, though, in that time, 9, 7, and 5. The price at 5.2, if we get close to 25 minutes from Blake Griffin, I think 5.2 is a little bit too cheap. So I actually do have some interest here in Blake Griffin, just a price point thing. Now, D Rose at 6'3", not as much. Again, I think plays a few less minutes, and I would just rather get to Blake Griffin for less. Grant at 4'9" seems okay. Right? He kind of had struggled that first game. Same with Mason Plumlee at 4'8". Did not have a good game his first game out. Both him and Grant struggled. Mason Plumlee had 4 and 3 in 21 minutes. Again, normally he's a better point per minute guy. I think that will very much lower the ownership. You can take a dart throw on him in GPPs. Again, Okafor off the bench is a good offensive player. In that time, in 20 minutes, he finished with 4, 5, and 1. And usually you expect a little bit more from him. And then the rookie Killian Hayes was not great, to be honest. He finished with 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He had 7 turnovers. 20 to 25 minutes is about what I expect from him. I think I expect probably a better game. So, yeah, viable, cheap option. But, yeah, all in all, I'm definitely not as excited about the Pistons as I am New York on the opposite side. So, guys I think look like in play for Detroit. Blake Griffin for me, and then probably Killian Hayes, Okafor. Those are the guys I would look to. Houston and Chicago. Again, no James Harden still. I don't think Christian Wood. I don't think he'll be available either. He'll miss Friday and Saturdays. Saturdays preseason games? Sundays. Yeah, so he looks like he'll be back Tuesday. So no Wood. Boogie, well, he did Boogie things, right? He looked like a young Boogie Cousins. He basically, I think, had average over 2 fantasy points per minute. Again, the matchup is great too against Chicago, like Wendell Carter Jr., Markkanen. They can't handle him. So if they're going to bump up the minutes here for Boogie, then he looks like one of the best plays here at 6K. Again, this will be something to keep an eye on with him and John Wall. Both like them a lot, but how many minutes will they play? And both absolutely crushed in their limited time. John Wall, 13, 9, 5 and 2 steals in 19 minutes. So this is a situation where if we get news that Wall and Boogie are going to play 25 minutes, I think you probably try to get both into your lineup, to be honest. But we may not get that news, and if that's the case, obviously there is some risk. Now, other options here in this team, I'm not super interested in a house at that price. Not really looking to Malcolm at 5.5. Gordon at 5.7. Again, that feels a little bit pricey. He had a good shooting day. He, again, at times is scoring dependent. And then off the bench, I think there's a couple guys you can look to. Once again, Bruno Caboclo. We're not going to get the same ownership as we did last time. The ownership will definitely come up. Again, he had close to 40 fancy points in how many minutes did he play? 26 minutes. Just because the Rockets, they don't have a lot of depth in the front court. So Caboclo, if they do limit the starters once again, I think looks like a pretty good play in the mid-range. Also, Chris Clemens. I know Clemens shot the ball terribly. I think he shot the ball 1 of 10. But he's at 4.1K, and he's going to be aggressive when he's out there. The issue is they do have other guards they can use too. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking to for Houston. If we move on to Chicago, so again, minutes for the Bulls were low to mid 20s, which is okay. And Levine and Kobe White at 7.6 and 7.2, those seem priced about right. So at the moment, I'm fine with them, but I'm not really going to prioritize either. Markkanen, that feels a little bit too pricey at 6.5. Preston Williams, the rookie at 5.4, or Patrick Williams, I should say, sorry, I'm probably not going to go there. Again, Otto Porter, they limited him. Wendell Carter Jr. Did only play 19 minutes. He shot the ball terribly. I think he shot 0 of 5 from 3. But he's still a decent point per minute guy. And on the other side, Boogie is not a good defender. So I think Wendell Carter Jr. is in play here for value there at that price. And then, a guy like Satoransky, he lit it up kind of in the garbage time with the second unit. But that's what he can do. He is a pretty good point per minute guy. And when he's playing alongside lower usage guys, he will kind of be the alpha in the offense. 11, 7, 6. So, yeah, Satoransky viable here at 5K. But that's really where my interest lies. Gafford, how many minutes did he play in that last game? Did play 17 minutes. He is a guy that can fill up a stat sheet. Also a pretty good shot blocker. So if you want a pretty low-owned value play, you can look to a guy like Daniel Gafford. All right, let's move on. Last couple games here. Again, Clippers, at the moment, there's no one I have interest in. And the reason being, again, looking at the box score, everyone played, 18 players. So, yeah, right now, I literally have no interest in the Clippers. If we get news that starters are going to play more, then yeah, of course, obviously Kawhi, Paul George, guys we can look to. But at the moment, there's no one I'm looking to. On the Lakers side, well, if they end up resting the same guys as they did last time, then I have a lot of interest in the Lakers. So AD, LeBron, we'll see. They did not play on Friday. Also, Gasol did not play, Markieff Morris did not play, KCP did not play, and Caruso is already ruled out. So if we get those same 5 players out, then you're going to want to load up in Lakers. A guy like Horton Tucker, just a minutes thing, right? He played 37 minutes. So, yeah, I think he looks like one of the best plays in this league. Kyle Kuzma, 38 minutes in the preseason is insane. Montrez even played over 30 minutes. So, yes, I would say if we get this news that everyone is once again out for the Lakers, I would probably try to get at least 2 to 3 players into your lineup, at least. Schroeder did not play as many minutes, right? He played, let's go Lakers. He only played 24, so a little bit hesitant on him. But yeah, guys like Montrez, Horton Tucker, Kuzma, I think all look really good. If you want to target a guy off the bench, Devontae Kakak is a good point per minute guy. He had 8 and 6 in 25 minutes, so he's a viable punt if you want to get a little bit different. But yeah, and then let's see, Quinn Cook also viable, cheaper guy that will be lower owned. So this will be something to monitor. Now, if we get news that the starters are going to play, we'll see, right? We got to see how many minutes they're going to play. If we get 25 minutes, then yeah, LeBron and AD are definitely in play. So situation to monitor. But if they're once again out, I think you're going to want to load up in Lakers. Finally, Kings and the Trailblazers. Well, this game was played at a fast pace. So it finished 127 to 102. The starters got good run, right? Mid-20s minutes for a lot of these guys. So this is another appealing game if we get the same minutes. De'Aaron Fox at 7-9. Again, had a subpar game. Not amazing, but I think once again in play. Buddy Hield had a good shooting night, but again, he has a somewhat low floor if his shot's not falling. Bagley's out, Whiteside's out. So once again, I expect Richaun Holmes to get a good run. He had 8 points, 4 boards, 3 blocks, 1 assist, 1 steal. That's a kind of Richaun Holmes type stat line, right? He can fill up a stat sheet. He's a guy that will get you those hustle points, block, steals. So Holmes 4-6. Once again, a value play that I do like here. If we look at how the other minutes were distributed, so besides like the main guys, again, there wasn't a ton. Like everyone kind of dwindled down and didn't play a whole lot. Like, a guy like Halliburton, the rookie, played 20 minutes, was okay, but not really looking or not super excited about it. So really, besides the starters, there's not a ton of like. So guys, again, Fox, Holmes are the two I think I like the best. I know Barnes actually did play pretty good for his standards. Normally, he's a low usage, stand in the corner guy. I'm probably not going to go back to Barnes. I think Hield is once again in play, but again, he shot the ball really well. 23 points, 1 assist, 0 rebounds. So if the shot's not falling, kind of like Eric Gordon, right, does have a pretty low floor. And then finally, Trailblazers. So Trailblazers, if we take a look at their minutes, right, the two guys I mentioned that I liked on Friday, Giles, Kanter, absolutely smashed, both at somewhat low ownership. Now, Lillard, CJ played 20 and 22 minutes respectively. If those minutes do go up, then they look a lot better. So this will be something we'll hopefully get some clarity on. Lillard's at 8.5, CJ's at 7.3. I'd probably slightly give that to Lillard, even though he's a little bit more pricey. Nurkic, don't expect him to play again. So, yeah, for me, Kanter, Giles, once again. Now, the ownership is going to go up in these guys, right? Giles will be a lot higher owned than he was on Friday just because people will box score watch. They saw right in 25 minutes, hit 18, 14, 3, and 2. But yeah, he is once again in play, and same with Kanter. Like these two guys look really good if Nurkic is out, and I do not expect Nurkic to play again. So Kanter, Giles, definitely looking to once again here for value. Derek Jones Jr. was okay. He played good minutes. Even Carmelo played well off the bench. Melo's at 6.2, but don't expect him to play like that well again. So really for me, the interest is once again in the bigs with Kanter and Giles, and then possibly guys like Lillard and CJ if the minutes do go up on the starters. But that's really it for my breakdown, guys. Again, the thing I want to hammer down is in these preseason videos, a lot can change. So got to monitor Twitter. Again, it's very important to follow me. I will give you guys all the news that I get or that we get throughout the day and give my thoughts. Also, check out the live stream. We have a 6-game slate, so I will be live, planned for 45 minutes before lock on my YouTube channel to go over everything, answer all your guys' questions. But yeah, that's it. So thanks again. I hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow in the live stream.